I've known I wanted to be an interior designer since 5th grade, which is wild. I loved how you could take a space, any space, and change it with paint or wallpaper or flooring or, cabinet hardware or update window treatments, and it looked completely different. And not everybody is a good fit, and that's okay. One of the things that I think we do really well as a firm is we really focus on our clients as far as we really are trying to pull out their personal styles into their home. There's so much work. So I feel like our generation is a little bit more, happy to see people succeed and not like really pitting each other against each other.
Hello everyone, welcome to Creative Blueprints. Today we are with one of my favorite designers. I have been following her work for a long time, and I had the pleasure to know about her experience because I went to a panel that happened like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was already 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so
Crazy.
That was part of the ASID. So that was for interior designers that are new in the industry. So one of the main goals of this podcast is to inspire new talents. And if you are interested to be a part of the new construction world, well, this is the moment to get inspired for one of the amazing designers here in the Austin area. So her name is Meredith Owen. Welcome to Creative Blueprints.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. I'm really excited. This is my first podcast experience, so I'm excited to be a part of it.
And also, thank you for schedule this. We know that everybody in the construction field is super busy nowadays.
Yes,
it's complicated. Wild. It's complicated.
Yes, it is. But this is super fun, so I'm excited that you invited me to be on. So excited to chat with you.
I would love to know more about your experience, more about your work, how many years of experience you have, and how you decided to be part of this. So we will start with that introduction about yourself.
Perfect.
I would love that you share with us, how many years of experience you have, and where did you study? If you study in interior design, because sometimes we are doing a lot of in the design world, but I have had some interviews from people that is a designer or is in the design world, but is not an interior designer.
Right.
So what guided you to be part of this construction field? And also, there is one question that I love to ask to everybody. So what is your happy place?
Okay.
All right.
Got it. Okay, that's a lot to remember, but let me try. So I've known I wanted to be an interior designer since 5th grade, which is wild.
Wow.
I know. So my parents bought a house that was built in 1969 when I was going into 5th grade. So we moved, and so it was an older home, and my mom was in the middle of updating it to kind of, be our own style. And I remember in 5th grade, my teacher asked us to write a paper about what we wanted to do in our career when we grew up. And I asked her, I was like, well, what's the person that does the, designing on the inside of homes? And she was the first person who ever even mentioned the word interior design to me. So she was like, that's an interior designer. And from that moment on, I knew that's what I wanted to do because I just loved it. I loved how you could take a space, any space, and change it with paint or wallpaper or flooring or, cabinet hardware or update window treatments, and it looked completely different. So I've known that since I was little, which is an odd thing, I think. I went to school at Southwest Texas when it was Southwest Texas. Now it's Texas State. And I majored in interior design with a Bachelor of Science degree. So really kind of just followed that path all the way through, graduated, and was really lucky. I sent out my resume in my little portfolio from design school to all the high-end residential designers in the Austin area and got a few callbacks, went on a few interviews, and was hired pretty quickly out of school to be a design assistant. And I was an assistant for a high-end residential interior designer.
Okay.
So this is like 2006. We're in the middle of doing like huge parade homes. Like I'm talking 10,000 square feet, high-end residential, right in the middle of that like Tuscan Mediterranean era. And just following everybody around with a notepad and like, you know, does anybody need coffee? What can I help do? You know, just like taking it all in. And just loving every minute of it. So that's kind of how I started. So I've been working in the industry since '06. So next year we'll have been in Austin working in high-end residential for 20 years.
Oh wow, congratulations.
Which is wild because I feel 27 sometimes still. So
we are invited to the party.
Yes, exactly. There should be a party for sure. So then about 10 years into that experience and soaking in all that I possibly could. By that time, I had gotten married and had a couple of babies, and my husband is an architect, so we actually met working on a project together.
Okay.
And he really was the driving force that was like, you're so good, you really need to go out on your own. And so by the time our kids were just a little bit older, we decided like it was a good time to do that. So we like moved all of our savings over to start this business, and luckily it took off. It was just me and one of my first teammates, Alicia, and she's been with me from day one over here. And we remember looking at each other and thinking, are we going to have any work? Are we going to be busy? And now we're like so busy, so much work. So it's been such a blessing. Yeah.
Awesome. How many people do you have in your team?
So we have 7 people that work in the office full time, but then we also have PR team that we work with, and a social media team that we work with, and bookkeeper, CPA. So there's a lot of behind the scenes that make it all happen. Obviously, it's not just us. So
perfect.
Yeah. And then Happy Place. My happy place is Seaside, Florida, 30A. My parents have a home over there that they purchased right before COVID. And so that's like the place that I go where I can really unwind and relax and enjoy the beach and the ocean and just like, really unwind. So
awesome.
Yeah.
How many times a year are you visiting the place?
I try to go at least twice.
Oh, that's
so
fantastic.
Yeah, we try to go at least twice, at least once in the summer and usually spring break. If we can sneak in another trip here or there, that's even better. But with schedules and work and kids and sports, it's hard sometimes.
How old are your kids?
So my stepson actually just started working with us. So he is going to be 25. Wow. I know.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know. So that's been super fun. So he is our new procurement coordinator and vendor relations specialist. And he's been a godsend because that's like a piece of the puzzle that's just been, hard to really pull together when we've been so busy. So we're all like, how did we survive without Evan? So that's been fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so he's almost 25. Our daughter is almost 16. So I'm also a driver's ed teacher after I go home. And then our son is 11. So he's about to be in 6th grade.
And the other guys are interested in this world?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think that they...
So my daughter is our daughter is very interested. She keeps saying she wants to go to Texas State. She wants to major in interior design and come work with us. But we'll see. I want them to all kind of find their own path. And if it's something that's a great fit, then amazing. I mean, I would love nothing more.
That's
So
lovely.
yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. So that's good to know a little bit about yourself.
Yes.
And of course, that the dynamic of this is like we have this little transparent cube with a lot of questions that and some others that I just added.
Uh-oh.
So, and we will be picking some of them and you will be answering.
Okay.
So feel free to pick the one, you can read it.
All right,
and
let's see.
You can answer it.
What do we got here? What would be something you wish you had known before starting your own business? That's a great question. I think really understanding your numbers and your ideal client and what that looks like, and not everybody is a good fit. And that's okay, and also I think really knowing how to say no sometimes,
Okay.
is a great thing to know and understand before you get too far into business. Not everything is a yes. So.
I know that you are very focused in high-end residential,
Mhm.
and everybody has their target. But how you decided to work with this specific target?
Yeah, our ideal client is typically, and I love talking about this because it makes it real and it makes you very focused in on who you are marketing to and who you're catering to and who's a great fit for your company. For us, it's really typically people who are very busy, people who have owned a business or currently own a business. It's somebody who really understands and values what we do when we bring to the table. So it's usually somebody who travels a lot too, that really appreciates nice high-end design and wants to bring that into their own home and own life, but maybe just doesn't have the time to do that themselves.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's a
So
good
do
question.
you think that everybody's like, niche down?
Yeah.
And I know that you are very focused on this niche. So do you think that is something that is good, or are you talking like to say no to some clients that are not your target?
Right. Sometimes,
Is that
I
hard?
will always love being able to transform even just one room. Like the transformation for me is such, a passion that I'll always have, I think. But I guess what I mean is, sometimes, people try to kind of fit in the box that you've kind of created, and it's not an ideal fit. Maybe the timeline doesn't work. I mean, I remember saying no to a client during COVID when everything was super crazy. It was a potential client. It was a very well-known name in town, and it was a project I really wanted. I thought it would be an amazing project to work on. It was a penthouse condo, I believe. It was working with a contractor we really loved, but their timeline was just so unrealistic. And I knew we weren't going to be able to make that happen. And so instead of taking that project on and disappointing the client, I told them, I was like, there's just no way. Like what you're asking for isn't possible. And I don't want to lead you on, bring you on, promise you things we can't deliver. So I think it's things like that where you just like, you have to know when it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Better to know ahead of time than be all the way into a project.
Awesome. All right. Are you ready for the second
Oh
one?
gosh, I guess.
Okay.
Oh, I should have taken the other one out. Oh well.
No, that's fine.
It's gonna be the same one. What role does sustainability play in your projects, and how do you incorporate eco-friendly practices into your work? That's a good question. I'm always a really big fan of natural materials. So, there's a lot of man-made materials out there. So I'm always a big fan of, if it's wood floor, like it's real wood floor, maybe it's locally sourced, wool rugs too. That's something, we want to be sourcing and selecting things that are good for the environment people are living in too. I mean, even just talking about like low VOC paints and off-gassing and things like that, especially if you have little kids or health problems, or you're going to be moving into it right away without it being able to air out. So those are things that we really think about. Again, I think the more natural products, the better. I think Austin's a great place to be, sourcing things like that, because I think a lot of people really pay attention to that right now, which is great.
Do you have a client that has been like very, I cannot say like strict, but like trying to find something that was very focused on this?
Yes, we actually did. We had a project a few years ago, and she really wanted only natural materials in her home. And some of it, it's a question to be asked, because it's like, when you say sustainability, do you mean like this is we're sourcing something and it can rejuvenate, or are you more worried about like chemicals in your home? So, it's very specific questions you have to kind of drill down into to make sure, are we worried about the environment? Or are we worried about the environment in your own home too? Because sometimes that will help dictate kind of the selections that you need to make.
Awesome.
So,
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'll leave this one out so I don't repick it.
Okay.
Okay, now, all right. We're getting down into it now.
Okay.
Let's see. What is your and your team's main source of inspiration? One of the things that I think we do really well as a firm is we really focus on our clients as far as we really are trying to pull out their personal styles into their home.
Nice.
So when people look at our website, a question I get asked a lot is, oh, I don't, all your projects look different. I'm like, well, they're supposed to, because they're all for different people. So it's like, I wouldn't want somebody to walk into my house, for example, and it feel like, the designer who did our house or something like that. I would want it to feel like us. And so that is our goal with all of our really understanding, getting to know our clients is such an inspiration, because how do they live? Do they have kids? Do they have dogs? Do they travel a lot? Is really a great source of inspiration. And then traveling too. I know that's an easy one. People say that all the time,
yes.
But man, it's so true. Just getting outside of your own little box and seeing, different parts of the world, different parts of the country, just even going to a beautiful dinner or a great hotel can be very inspirational.
Do you have a hotel that you love to be there? Because nature is
one of my favorite hotels that I really love is in Nashville. It's the Thompson Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's in I think it's in the Gulch area over there. And it's such a cool hotel. There's a cool restaurant, there's a really cool rooftop bar. The rooms are designed really nicely. It's like they have paid attention to all the details. So I love stuff like that. And I love older hotels too. I love that also.
Yeah. They have a specific one here in Austin, because we are surrounded.
We have a lot of hotels. So the Proper is awesome. Love the Proper. I also will always be a fan of the Driscoll. I think the Driscoll is a classic one. Yeah. It's a great place to sit, have a drink, and take it all in. So yeah.
Cool. All right, the next one.
Okay, next one. Oh, this feels like a long one. Let's see. What inspired the creation of your company firm, and what led you to choose that particular name? I think we kind of talked about that a lot in the beginning too of this. I always knew I wanted to own a business. So that was something that I just felt like that was something I was going to end up doing one day. And then marrying somebody who owns an architecture firm, growing up with parents who are business owners, it just felt like a natural step for me.
Okay.
Let's see, what led you to choose that particular name?
How you felt, or at what moment you felt that it was the moment to start your own business?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I think it's like my kids were just old enough where I felt like they were a little bit more settled. Our daughter was in school. Our youngest was 2 at the time, so he was in full-time daycare, and it just felt like, okay, I have a little bit more time to kind of focus on this part of my life.
Yeah.
So managing all aspects of your life, and I think that was a huge part of it. And having a very supportive husband and partner who really believed in me. I was lucky. I had been working in the industry for over 10 years by this point, so really created lots of wonderful relationships with vendors and clients over the years. So, after I started the business, a lot of people that I hadn't heard from in a couple of years, reach out and wanted to start projects and this and that. So it kind of just snowballed from there, which is great.
Do you still work with your partner very closely in projects?
The one that I worked with before, or which partner?
With your husband.
Oh, with my husband. Yes.
Husband.
So we work together on probably 2 or 3 projects a year, which is really fun. Yeah, his firm does a lot of more commercial and multifamily projects too.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
But we overlap on residential projects probably 2 or 3 times a year.
And what is experience like working with your husband?
It's fun. I actually really enjoy it. I think he has such a good eye, and he's been in this industry for so long too. We speak the same language, obviously. So I always feel like the projects we work on together really kind of have a unique twist, because, we don't have our egos involved in it. We're both trying to work together for the client to make the project as successful as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you collaborate with other designers here in Austin, or firms, or?
So we collaborate with other architects and contractors and things like that. And then we have lots of friends in the design industry that we're always cheering for. I love seeing, people that I've worked with in the past, or you know, people who've started their own companies, or, you know, just kind of follow along to see where they end up, because it's always fun. You know, there's so much work. So I feel like our generation is a little bit more, you know, happy to see people succeed, and not like really pitting each other against each other, kind of is how it felt, you know, earlier on in my career, I feel like.
So do you feel that there is like a difference in the community here in Austin, like nowadays?
I do. I feel like you know, this generation is a lot more collaborative and approachable, and excited to see each other succeed. You know, it's like if we're all succeeding, that's amazing, you know?
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the next one.
Oh gosh. Okay. All right. Mix it up. Let's see what we got. What do you look for when hiring new team members, and what qualities make a candidate stand out? That's a great question. I think one of the best things is somebody who is really motivated, you know, somebody who's excited to show up for work every day, somebody who is willing to help and go out of their way and learn things. And, you know, it's like, it's a small business that we have here. So I'm like, there are days we're taking out the trash. There are days that we're at like a really great vendor meeting. Or days where we're, you know, at High Point Market. But then there's also days where we're just reorganizing the resource room. And the people who are really willing to like get in there and like, what do you need help with? And, you know, focus on that, and not really be so motivated to only do the fun things, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the grunt work always makes me like, wow, that person's really like stepping up and helping the whole team, you know?
Nice.
So yeah, so I like that.
And when did you feel that was the moment to hire someone that will help you? That you said like, I don't have time for this. I really need someone, because I know a lot of interior designers that are working by themselves and they have their own firm. Mm-hmm. And you know, in the Instagram post is like our company, and it's me, myself, and just me, and doing everything. So.
Yes, I mean, that's so hard. I mean, I was lucky because right off the get-go, I had Leisha with me. One of the things I always think about is hiring for your weaknesses. So, you know, I know what I'm good at, and I also know what I'm bad at. And so hiring the people who are really good at the things that you're really not good at is important too. So anything that you could kind of, it's like, what do you enjoy doing? What are you really great at? Are you great with meeting with clients and the sales part of this business? Then, you know, maybe you need to hire somebody who's going to focus on the drafting part of it, you know, and the drawing part of it, if that's not the thing you enjoy doing, you know. So, yeah.
That is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one? Thanks. Okay. Oh my gosh, we're really getting through these. Okay. If you had a chance to give advice to your 15-year-old self, what would you say? It's funny because my daughter's 15. So I was like,
oh, cool.
I know. So that's like really puts it in perspective. You know, 15 years ago, I had a new baby and I was tired and working full time. And so for all the mamas out there working full time with babies, hang in there, you know, enjoy that baby. Like all the other things are going to come together. So I think I would just tell her, like, relax. It's all going to work out. You know, enjoy this time with your baby, and, you know, don't stress about all the small stuff. So,
yeah. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say, oh gosh, here we go.
It's a long one.
Oh, it is. Okay. Share with me a big mistake during your career as a designer, business owner. How did you solve it, and what did you learn from it? I think I'm going to go back to kind of one of my answers earlier, is learning how to say no and learning when something's just not the right fit. You know, there have been times in the past where I would tell a client, okay, you know, they're wanting this project to be completed by X date. And, you know, behind the scenes, we're like pulling our hair out trying to make that happen. And it still maybe doesn't happen because we're only in control of so many things. You know, COVID is a great example.
How was COVID for you?
COVID was interesting because you know, we just didn't know what that was going to look like, especially my husband being a business owner. He is an architect, and me owning a design firm. We were both like, man, we're both in the same industry. So if this whole thing tanks and bottoms out, you know, we're not very diversified in our professions. But luckily it was the other way around. Like we got busier, we got, we had to hire more people. We had to learn how to work from home. We had to, pivot when people got COVID and all of, and homeschooling kids at home. So it was wild.
Yeah.
Wild is the word I would use to describe that time.
Awesome. It was these two sides of the pandemic. Like everybody that was like super concerned and was like, no, this would like fall down.
Yeah.
And the other part that was like super busy in the construction. So I'm so happy that it was like on that.
Yeah, I'm happy too. I mean, that was great for our business. It was a lot to juggle with like kids being at home and trying to homeschool kids and run a company and, manage projects and go to job sites and, all of the things that you're trying to do. So.
According to the question, do you remember a project that that was like, that you can like say, this was a mistake and we really learned from it? And
like something within a project?
Yes.
Oof, I'm trying to think if there's something that we're like, man, this was a really big mistake for a project.
That probably involved like some cost for the company or a delay.
Yeah,
or...
I mean, there's always things that we learn. In our Tuesday team meetings, I always do a lessons learned moment. So there's many things over the years, right? There's, things like, oh, this window treatment, this fabric didn't hang how we thought it was going to hang and we have to have this redone. Or, I don't know, I'm trying to think of other lessons learned. Sometimes it's like, oh, working with this particular vendor, they didn't really, help us out when there was, some liability to be had on their side too. So maybe we don't want to, reuse that particular vendor again. So there's a lot of lessons learned out there that we talk about, and we talk about it on a weekly basis. So yeah, awesome. One big mistake doesn't really like stand out to me, but lots of different things over the years where, we've learned to like cultivate through them and, how to manage that and how to make things better and make the process better.
Now that you talk about the vendors, are you picky to pick your vendors, and what is a particular thing that you can say, I really matter about this vendor or whatever vendor that is coming, that is new, that I want to incorporate to the team or to the vendors team, that you really want to accomplish?
I mean, I think some of the vendors we've worked with, especially the local ones in Austin, I've worked with for so many years. So, like Caffrey's and Company is amazing. They carry so many beautiful lines of furnishings, and they're just so professional and quick with quotes. And if there's fabric samples we need or whatever, they're constantly helping us out. Same with like Black Sheep Unique for rugs. That's always my go-to rug person because their showroom's amazing. They make our job so much easier. They carry beautiful product. We know that we're going to have great customer service with them. So, it's things like that where you're like, I just want to keep going back to that person. I want to help them build their business, because they do such a good job for us. Stratus is another one that comes to mind. They do such a beautiful job with slabs and things like that. And Ann Sachs, I mean, that's another one where it's like, if we need tile samples, they're going to ship it over and have it the next day. So we have wonderful vendors in Austin. So I always just implore people to, use what we have here, first.
Yeah, we sometimes are like looking for something that is coming from the other side of the world. And now with, the tariffs and what is happening in the world, is like so hard to find something. And we have like everything here in Austin. So
I know. It's nice to be able to help support these smaller businesses in our Austin community. I think that's important for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last one will be, what will be like a nice advice that you can give to future designers, or now that you know how the architect part also works, like how that will be that advice that you can give to future talents?
I mean, I think building relationships is such a key part of, our business, whether it's client relationships, relationships with realtors, relationships with vendors, relationships with other designers. This entire business is built on relationships. And so it's like, if people like you and you're fun to work with and you're a nice person, people are going to want to talk about you and refer you out to other people. People don't want to work with somebody who is, full of themselves, or somebody who, is, not easy to work with, you know? So I think being a kind person in this industry goes a really long way.
How you can say that you built relationships when you were like new in the industry?
Yeah. I mean, I think you go to all the vendor events, you go to, the ASID events here in Austin too. I think you show up for all of these things, because as you get older, it doesn't get easier, especially if like you have kids and family and, husband, other commitments after work. That happens a lot more as you get older in this job. And so I think when you're young, that's the time, do all your networking, get out there, be involved. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, now like networking and just
being on podcasts.
Yeah, just do this with me, be part of the community. That's great.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for accepting this invitation to be in the podcast. It's great to know more about your work, and all your experience is great to have you as part of the Austin community. So yeah, well, you can share with us your Instagram, your social media, website, how people can reach you out.
Absolutely. It's just Meredith Owen Interiors. So at Meredith Owen Interiors, if you type it in, you'll find all of our things.
Here is your office. So where is your office located?
Yeah, we're off West Bank Drive, so close to Westlake High School. We have 2 office buildings here. One that is more client focused, where it's resource rooms and conference rooms, and then another office where it's kind of behind the scenes where all the work is stuff.
All right, perfect. It's so beautiful here. It's super quiet, super relaxed. So
that's what everybody says. I'm like, this should be like a little spa where anybody needs to have a relaxing
moment. You can come here with Meredith, and then you can go to a little massage, and
there
you will be completely done for the day.
There you go. I love that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me.
Again.
And well, I will see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Perfect.
Bye-bye.
Bye.